Virgo. There is something about the way this person looks at you that you may have completely misunderstood. You may have thought they were curious. You may have thought they were attracted to you. You may have thought they were simply fascinated by your personality. Maybe you even assumed that their interest was temporary, a phase, a passing obsession, something that would eventually disappear once the excitement faded. But Virgo, what if the exact opposite is happening? What if this person has already made a decision about you? Not a decision they have announced, not something they have openly confessed, not something they have necessarily had the courage to say directly, but internally, they may have already chosen. And the person I am picking up on feels younger than you in some way. They may be younger in age, they may be younger emotionally, they may have less experience in relationships, or they may simply have a youthful energy that makes them seem younger than you. But there is something about this person that feels very clear. They do not want to keep looking. They do not want to keep searching. They do not want to keep comparing you to other people because in their mind, you have already become the standard. You may have no idea how deeply you have affected them. You may think they are still trying to figure out what they want. You may believe they are still exploring their options. You may assume that because they are younger, they are naturally more uncertain. And maybe that is what makes this situation so surprising. Because this person may actually be more certain about you than you are about them. You may still be asking questions. You may still be analyzing their behavior. You may still be wondering, what do they really want? Are they serious? Are they just attracted to me? Are they going to disappear? Do they actually see a future? But this person may already be thinking much further ahead than you realize. They may be imagining what life would look like with you. They may be imagining what it would feel like to wake up next to you, to have you in their daily routine, to know where you are, to hear from you, to build memories with you. And perhaps that is why their energy can sometimes feel intense, because they are not simply thinking about the present moment. They may already be imagining permanence. And this may surprise you because you may not see yourself as someone who is easy to choose. You may know your own personality. You may know that you can be complicated. You may know that you have standards. You may know that you do not easily open yourself up to just anyone. You may know that you have moments where you withdraw. You may become quiet. You may overthink. You may need space. You may analyze everything. You may notice every inconsistency. And perhaps you have assumed that these qualities make you difficult to love. But this person may see them completely differently. They may not see you as difficult. They may see you as real. They may see someone with depth, someone who is not available to everyone, someone who cannot be easily manipulated, someone who has an entire world inside them. And perhaps that is exactly what has made you so unforgettable. You are not simple to understand, and this person may be fascinated by that. They may feel as though every time they discover something about you, there is another layer underneath. You may reveal one side of yourself, then another, then another. You may be funny one moment and incredibly serious the next. You may be affectionate but also independent. You may be warm but selective. You may be incredibly caring but still capable of completely disappearing when you feel overwhelmed. And Perhaps this person has never encountered someone who combines all of these qualities in the same way. They may have met people who were easy to understand, people who immediately revealed everything, people who were predictable, people who made their intentions obvious from the beginning. But you may have made them work for every piece of information, not because you were trying to play games, because you are not the type to give your entire soul to someone you barely know. And perhaps this younger person has become deeply attached to the process of discovering you. They may remember details you forgot telling them. They may remember the exact way you reacted to something. They may remember conversations that you considered completely ordinary. They may remember your expressions, your jokes, the things you said when you were tired, the things you said when you were frustrated, the things you said when you were not trying to impress anyone. And perhaps those are the moments they remember most, because they may feel that those moments showed them the real you, the version of you that is not performing, the version of you that is not trying to be charming, the version of you that is simply existing. And perhaps that is the version they fell for, not the version of you that everyone sees, the private version, the quiet version, the stubborn version, the version that has a soft heart but a strong exterior, the version that wants love but does not want to lose itself in love, the version that wants commitment but refuses to beg for it, the version that may secretly want someone to stay but will never chase someone who has already decided to leave. This person may have noticed all of that, and it may have changed the way they see you, because perhaps they initially thought you were simply attractive. Then they realized you were interesting. Then they realized you were different. Then they realized they were thinking about you when you were not around. And at some point, something shifted. They stopped asking, "Do I like Virgo?" and started asking, "What would it be like if Virgo was actually mine?" That is a completely different question, because attraction is temporary. Interest can come and go. But when someone begins imagining you in their future, the emotional connection has entered another level. They may be thinking about what it would be like to introduce you to important people in their life. They may imagine you being present during significant moments. They may imagine you as the person they call first, the person they tell everything to, the person they come home to, the person who knows their habits, their moods, their fears, their dreams. And perhaps they have never seriously imagined that with someone before. This younger person may have had experiences that taught them not to trust easily. Maybe they have been disappointed. Maybe they have been ignored. Maybe they have been involved with people who were emotionally unavailable. Maybe they have encountered connections that were exciting at the beginning but completely empty underneath. And perhaps meeting you changed their understanding of what they actually want. They may have realized that chemistry is not enough, attention is not enough, attraction is not enough. They want something that feels meaningful, something that has substance, something that survives the days when everything is not exciting. And perhaps they believe you are capable of giving them that, because you are not someone who only exists in the beautiful moments. You have depth, you have experience, you understand that relationships are not always perfect. You understand that people have difficult days, You understand that real connection requires patience. And perhaps this younger person is drawn to that maturity. They may feel safer around you than they expected. They may feel that you understand things without them needing to explain everything. And that can be incredibly powerful because sometimes people do not fall in love with the person who gives them the most excitement. They fall in love with the person who makes them feel understood, the person who makes them feel seen, the person who notices when something is wrong, even when they say they are fine, the person who remembers what makes them laugh, the person who can tell when their energy changes. And perhaps you have done that for this person. Maybe you did not even realize the impact. Maybe you thought you were simply being observant. Maybe you thought you were simply listening. But they may have experienced it differently. They may have thought, Virgo actually sees me. And once someone feels genuinely seen, it can become difficult to return to superficial connections. That may be what happened here. This person may have started comparing other people to you, not intentionally. It may simply happen they meet someone new, they have a conversation, they notice something is missing. They laugh with someone, but the connection does not feel the same. They talk to someone attractive, but they do not feel the same depth. They spend time with someone easygoing, but they miss your intensity. They interact with someone who gives them immediate attention, but they find themselves thinking about the person who made them work for emotional access. You. And perhaps they are beginning to realize that the things they once thought were complicated about you are exactly the things they now miss when you are not there. They may miss your opinions, your reactions, your stubbornness, your way of correcting things, your way of seeing through people, your ability to say what everyone else is thinking. They may even miss the moments when you disagreed with them because the connection with you feels alive. It feels real. It feels like something that challenges them. And perhaps this younger person is not looking for someone who simply agrees with everything they say. They may want someone who makes them think, someone who pushes them to grow, someone who has their own identity. And perhaps you have never been the type to completely lose yourself in another person. You can love someone deeply and still have your own world, your own routines, your own opinions, your own goals, your own boundaries. And perhaps that independence has made you even more attractive to them because they may realize that if you choose them, you are not choosing them because you have no other options. You are choosing them because you genuinely want them. That distinction matters a lot. There is a difference between someone who needs you and someone who chooses you. And perhaps this person desperately wants to be chosen by you. They may want to know that you are not simply with them because you are lonely. They may want to know that you have looked at all of their flaws, their immaturity, their fears, their insecurities, and still decided, yes, that may be why they are so emotionally invested in your opinion. They may care more about what you think than they admit. A simple compliment from you may stay in their mind for days. A small criticism from you may affect them deeply. If you seem distant, they may overthink it. If you seem happy with someone else, they may become jealous. If you give them attention, they may feel incredibly confident. And if you withdraw, they may suddenly realize how much emotional power you have over them. This person may not have expected to become so attached. They may have initially believed they could keep things casual. They may have thought, I will just see what happens. They may have told themselves, I am not looking for anything serious. But then you happened, and suddenly their original plan no longer made sense because you may have become the exception, the person who made them question their own rules, the person who made them think about commitment when they were not planning to commit, the person who made them imagine forever when they were only thinking about today. And perhaps they are a little shocked by their own feelings. They may be thinking, why am I this affected? Why do I care so much? Why do I keep thinking about Virgo? Why do I feel like I cannot replace this person? And perhaps the answer is that you reached something inside them that other people did not. You may have touched a part of them that they usually keep hidden. Maybe they feel younger around you in the sense that you bring out a softer side of them, a playful side, a vulnerable side, a side they do not show to everyone. Perhaps with you, they do not have to constantly act strong. They can be silly, they can be emotional, they can be insecure. They can admit when they are afraid, and perhaps that is why they feel connected to you. You may make them feel that they can be both mature and vulnerable. They can grow with you without pretending they already know everything. And perhaps they admire that you do not expect them to have all the answers. You may challenge them, but you may also encourage them. You may see their potential. You may notice what they could become. And perhaps they feel that you are not only attracted to who they are now, you can see who they could become. That can be incredibly powerful for a younger person because they may still be in the process of becoming themselves. They may still be figuring out their identity, their career, their goals, their values, their future, and perhaps they feel that you do not judge them simply because they are still developing. Instead, you see the person they are becoming. That may be one of the reasons they are so attached to you. They may feel that you bring out their ambition. They may want to become better because they know you are watching, not because you are forcing them, because they want to be worthy of your respect. They may think, I want Virgo to be proud of me. And perhaps they would never say that directly, but their actions may reveal it. They may start changing small things. They may become more responsible. They may think more seriously about their future. They may start considering stability. They may start imagining what it would take to build something lasting because you have made them think beyond immediate gratification. And perhaps that is a major shift for them. This person may have once been focused on the moment. Now they are thinking about years. They may have once been focused on attraction. Now they are thinking about loyalty. They may have once wanted excitement. Now they are thinking about peace. They may have once wanted someone who looked good beside them. Now they want someone who feels like home. And perhaps you have become associated with that feeling. Home, not necessarily because everything is always easy with you, but because there is something familiar about you, something grounding, something that makes them feel like they can return to you, even after a difficult day, even after an argument, even after a period of distance. They may feel that the connection does not disappear simply because things become complicated. And perhaps that is what makes them believe in permanence. They may think, even when we disagree, I still want Virgo. Even when I am frustrated, I still want Virgo. Even when I need space, I still want Virgo in my life. That is different from a connection based only on excitement. And perhaps they are beginning to understand the difference. This person may have already chosen you emotionally. They may not yet know exactly how the future will unfold. They may not have every detail planned, but they may know one thing. They do not want to lose you. And that realization may have frightened them because wanting someone forever means accepting the possibility of losing them. If they do not care, they cannot be hurt. But if they care deeply, your absence becomes painful. And perhaps this person has recently realized how much your absence affects them. Maybe you became distant. Maybe your communication changed. Maybe you stopped giving them the same attention. Maybe you became busy with your own life. And suddenly they felt the difference. They may have realized, I do not like this. They may have realized that your presence had become part of their emotional routine. They may have realized that they had become accustomed to you, your messages, your energy, your opinions, your presence. And when that disappeared, something felt wrong. Perhaps they tried to distract themselves. They tried to act normal. They tried to convince themselves that it was not a big deal. But then something reminded them of you, a song, a place, a phrase, a joke, a particular time of day, and suddenly the emotions returned. That is when they may have understood that this is not simply a temporary attraction, because temporary attraction does not usually follow you into every part of your day. It does not make you rethink your future. It does not make you wonder what would happen if the person disappeared completely. And perhaps they have started imagining that possibility. What if Virgo moved on? What if Virgo met someone else? What if Virgo found someone who gave them everything they wanted? What if Virgo stopped waiting? What if Virgo no longer wanted them? That thought may terrify them because perhaps they have assumed that you would always be there. They may have believed that you would remain available while they figured themselves out, but now they may be realizing that you have choices. You have a life. You have options. You have the ability to walk away, and perhaps that realization has made them more serious. Because some people only understand the value of something when they realize they could lose it. This person may be younger, but they are not necessarily unaware. They may be learning quickly. They may be realizing that love cannot be taken for granted. Attention cannot be taken for granted. Your patience cannot be taken for granted. And perhaps they are beginning to understand that if they want you permanently, they have to act like someone who deserves permanence. They cannot simply expect you to wait forever. They cannot assume that feelings alone are enough. They may need to show consistency. They may need to communicate. They may need to become more mature. And perhaps that is exactly what they are thinking about. How do I prove to Virgo that I am serious? Not with dramatic words, with behavior, with effort, with consistency, with showing up. with making you feel secure, because perhaps they know that you are not impressed by empty promises. You may listen to what people say, but you pay attention to what they do. And this person may have realized that they may understand that they cannot simply say, I want you forever, then disappear whenever things become difficult. They know that you will notice. They know that you will analyze. They know that you will remember. And perhaps that is why they are thinking carefully before making their next move. They may want to be certain because they know that once they make a serious declaration to you, they cannot easily take it back. And perhaps they are already emotionally there. They may simply be trying to catch up mentally. This person may be asking themselves what kind of future they can realistically offer. They may be thinking about their responsibilities, their financial situation, their career, their maturity, their ability to provide emotional stability. They may be thinking, am I ready for what Virgo deserves? And perhaps the answer they are trying to reach is yes, not because they think they are perfect, but because they want to become ready. That is an important difference. Someone who does not care will say, take me exactly as I am. Someone who genuinely wants to build with you may say, I want to become better. And perhaps this person is entering that second mindset. They may not want you to settle for their current limitations. They may want to grow. They may want to become more reliable, more emotionally intelligent, more stable, more capable of giving you the kind of relationship you deserve. And perhaps you inspire that in them without even trying. You may not be giving them lectures. You may not be demanding that they change. Your existence may simply show them the level of person they need to become. Because you may have standards. You may know what you want. You may have already experienced enough disappointment to understand what you will no longer tolerate. And perhaps this person sees that. They know that you are not going to accept the bare minimum forever. They know that eventually you will choose peace over potential. You will choose consistency over chemistry. You will choose someone who is actually present over someone who only talks about being present. And perhaps they are afraid of that, not because they want to control you, because they know you are capable of leaving. And perhaps that fear is pushing them to become more serious. They may be thinking, if I want Virgo, I have to show Virgo. That may be the lesson they are learning. Love is not simply a feeling, it is a decision repeated through behavior. It is choosing someone when the mood changes, choosing someone when the excitement fades, choosing someone when the conversation is difficult, choosing someone when life becomes stressful. And perhaps this person is beginning to understand that they may not have understood it before. Maybe they believed relationships were supposed to feel easy all the time. Maybe they believed conflict meant incompatibility. Maybe they believed that if things became difficult, they should leave. But your connection may be teaching them something different. That two people can disagree and still care. That two people can need space and still be connected. That two people can be different and still build something. And perhaps they are learning that love is not the absence of problems. It is the willingness to face problems together. That may be one of the reasons they see you as someone permanent, because you do not live in a fantasy. You understand reality. You know that people are flawed. You know that relationships require work. And perhaps that makes you feel more trustworthy to them. They may feel that you are not going to disappear simply because life becomes imperfect. But there is something else. This younger person may also be deeply attracted to the way you carry yourself. You may have a presence that makes people curious. You may not even realize when people are looking at you. You may walk into a room and simply focus on what you are doing, but someone may be watching. They may notice the way you move, the way you speak, the way you respond to people, the way you do not need constant attention. And perhaps your independence makes them want your attention even more because you do not give it away carelessly. When you focus on someone, they feel it. When you listen, they know you are listening. When you care, it becomes obvious. And perhaps they crave that from you. They may want to be the person you choose to focus on, the person you choose to make time for, the person you choose to trust. And perhaps they are jealous of the people who already have access to your softer side. They may wonder, who else gets this version of Virgo? Who else does Virgo talk to like this? Who else knows what Virgo is really like? And perhaps they want to be the person who knows you best, not because they want to possess you, because they want a place in your life that nobody else can replace. They may want to become your person, the one you call when something happens, the one you want to tell your good news to, the one you look for in a crowded room, the one whose opinion matters, the one whose absence you notice. And perhaps they are already imagining that role. They may picture ordinary moments with you, not only romantic moments, ordinary life, going shopping together, arguing over what to eat, laughing at something ridiculous, being quiet in the same room, running errands, helping each other, knowing each other's routines. That is where their mind may be going. Not only dramatic romance, real life, and perhaps that is how you know their feelings may be deeper than they appear. Because they are not only imagining the exciting moments, they are imagining the boring ones, the ordinary ones, the moments nobody posts online, the moments that make a life, and perhaps they want those moments with you. They may want to know what it feels like to have a relationship that is not constantly uncertain, a relationship where they know where they stand, a relationship where they do not have to wonder whether you will still be there tomorrow. And perhaps you represent that possibility to them. You may be someone who appears difficult to reach, but once you decide someone belongs in your life, you can be incredibly loyal. And perhaps they have seen that. They may have noticed how protective you are of the people you love, how much you remember, how much you do behind the scenes, how you show love through actions. Maybe you do not always say everything, but you do things. You remember. You help. You check in. You notice. And perhaps this person has felt that from you. They may have realized that your love is not always loud. It is practical. It is consistent. It is present. And perhaps that is exactly what they want forever. They may not want someone who only says beautiful things. They want someone who shows up, someone who remembers, someone who notices when they are not okay, someone who can be trusted. And perhaps they believe you can be that person. But there is also a possibility that this person has been trying to hide how serious they are. They may joke around. They may act casual. They may pretend that they are not affected. They may tease you. They may flirt with you. They may act as though nothing is serious. But underneath that behavior, there may be a much deeper emotional reality. They may be afraid that if they reveal how much they care, you will gain too much power over them. They may be afraid of rejection. They may be afraid that you will laugh. They may be afraid that you will say, "You are too young," or "You do not know what you want." And perhaps that is their greatest fear, that you will not take them seriously because they may know that you have more experience. You may have lived through things that they have not. You may understand relationships in a way they are still learning. And perhaps they worry that you see them as immature. They may worry that you do not believe they can truly commit. But perhaps their feelings are forcing them to grow faster than they expected. They may be learning what it means to be serious. They may be learning what it means to communicate. They may be learning what it means to choose one person. And perhaps they are doing it because you matter, not because you demanded it, because they do not want to lose you. They may think, "I cannot keep behaving like I have unlimited time," because perhaps they know that you will not wait forever. They may know that eventually you will make a decision too. And perhaps they are afraid that if they do not act, someone else will. Someone else may recognize your value. Someone else may offer you stability. Someone else may give you the certainty you have been waiting for. And perhaps the thought of that person being someone other than them is difficult to accept. This may be the moment when they finally understand, "I have to make my intentions clear." Not necessarily with a dramatic confession, maybe with a conversation, maybe with consistency, maybe with an invitation, maybe with an action that makes their feelings obvious. They may start talking about the future more openly. They may ask questions about what you want. They may want to know what your ideal relationship looks like. They may ask whether you believe in marriage, whether you want children, whether you would move, whether you believe in building a life with one person. And perhaps these questions are not random. They may be trying to understand whether your future is compatible with theirs, because they may already be thinking long term. And perhaps you have no idea. You may think they are simply making conversation, but they may be gathering information. They may be trying to figure out whether they have a real chance, because wanting someone forever is one thing. Believing that a future is actually possible is another. And perhaps this person wants to know whether you could truly choose them. They may be thinking, "If Virgo wanted me, would Virgo stay? Would Virgo trust me? Would Virgo let me get close? Would Virgo actually build with me?" These questions may be constantly running through their mind. And perhaps your behavior has given them mixed signals. You may care about them deeply, but still maintain your independence. You may be affectionate one day and distant the next. You may open up, then suddenly become private again. You may give them hope, then make them wonder whether they imagined the connection. And perhaps they find that incredibly frustrating. But it also keeps them emotionally invested. because they never feel completely certain about where they stand. And perhaps this person wants certainty from you. They want to know, do I have a future with Virgo? And perhaps they are waiting for you to show them. But Virgo, you should not feel pressured to choose someone simply because they want you. Your standards still matter. Your judgment still matters. Their feelings are important, but your feelings are important too. If this person truly wants you forever, they will understand that forever is not something you promise because someone is emotionally intense. Forever is built, it is demonstrated, it is earned through consistency. And perhaps this person is beginning to understand that they may know that your heart is not something they can win with one dramatic gesture. They may need to show you who they are over time. And perhaps they are prepared to do that because they may have already chosen you internally. Now they need to prove that choice through their actions. They may become more patient, more reliable, more intentional. They may stop playing games. They may stop trying to make you jealous. They may stop disappearing to see whether you chase them, because perhaps they are finally realizing that those behaviors can make you leave, and they do not want that. They may have previously believed that distance created attraction, but with you, distance may create detachment. You may not chase, you may not beg, you may simply observe. And once you decide that someone is no longer giving you what you need, you can emotionally disconnect. That possibility may scare them because they may have realized that you can love someone deeply and still walk away. And perhaps that is one of the reasons they respect you. You are not trapped by your feelings. You may feel everything intensely, but you still have the ability to choose yourself. And perhaps this younger person finds that incredibly attractive. They may think, Virgo is not going to stay just because I want them to. And perhaps they are right. You need a reason to stay. You need evidence. You need consistency. You need to feel respected. You need to feel emotionally safe. And perhaps this person is starting to understand that they may be realizing that your love is not something they can take for granted. It is something they must protect. And perhaps that is why their feelings have become so serious, because they may understand that if they want a future with you, they need to become the kind of person who can maintain it. This is not about age. A younger person can still be serious. A younger person can still know what they want. A younger person can still recognize the person they want to build with. And perhaps this person has recognized you. They may have looked at the people around them. They may have experienced other connections. They may have tried to distract themselves, but something keeps bringing them back to the same conclusion. You are different. You make them feel different. You make them think differently. You make them want differently. And perhaps they are not ready to let that go. They may want to be able to say, that is my person, not in a controlling way, in a deeply emotional way. The person they chose, the person they are loyal to, the person they build with, the person whose presence matters. And perhaps they want you to feel the same way. They want to be chosen by you. They want to feel that you are not constantly looking over your shoulder for someone better. They want to feel secure. They want to know that even though you have options, you choose them. And perhaps that is why they may become more vulnerable. They may begin telling you things they have never told anyone. They may reveal insecurities. They may admit fears. They may tell you what they want, and perhaps that is a major step for them because they may not be used to being emotionally honest. They may have learned to hide behind humor, behind confidence, behind casual behavior. But with you, that mask may be getting harder to maintain because you see too much. You notice when something changes. You notice when their words do not match their energy. You notice when they are pretending not to care. And perhaps they know that. They may realize that they cannot easily hide from you. You may see through them. And strangely enough, that may make them feel safer because they do not have to constantly perform. You already know that they are imperfect and you are still there. That may be one of the reasons they believe in forever. They may think, if Virgo has already seen my flaws and still cares, maybe this is real. And perhaps they are right to take that seriously because superficial connections often disappear when the illusion disappears. But real connections become stronger when people see each other clearly. You may have already seen sides of this person that others have not. The immature side, the insecure side, the emotional side, the stubborn side, the side that does not know what to say, the side that makes mistakes. And perhaps you have not immediately rejected them for being imperfect. That may mean everything to them. They may feel that with you, they have a chance to grow without being completely defined by their mistakes. And perhaps they want to offer you the same. They may know that you have your own flaws. They may know that you can be stubborn. They may know that you overthink. They may know that you can become difficult when you feel hurt. But they may not see those qualities as reasons to leave. They may see them as parts of the person they love. And perhaps that is why they want you permanently, not a fantasy version of you. You, the real you, the person who has moods, opinions, boundaries, bad days, good days, the person who can be incredibly sweet and incredibly stubborn within the same hour, the person who can make them laugh and then completely frustrate them, the person who can make them feel calm and then challenge every assumption they have. And perhaps they would not change that. They may even secretly love the contradictions because they make you interesting. You are not one dimensional. You are not predictable. You are not easy to replace. And perhaps they have finally realized that they may have thought that they could find someone similar, but similar is not the same. They may meet people who have your sense of humor, but not your mind. They may meet people who have your appearance, but not your energy. They may meet people who have your confidence, but not your emotional depth. They may meet people who are kind, but not in the way you are kind. And perhaps they have realized that you cannot simply be substituted. That realization can make someone serious because they may understand that if they lose you, they are not simply losing one relationship. They are losing something unique, something that may never come back in the same form. And perhaps that is why they are thinking about forever. They may not want to take the risk of losing you permanently. They may want to secure their place in your life. They may want to know that no matter what happens, there is a foundation. a bond, a commitment, something that cannot be easily destroyed by one difficult conversation. And perhaps they are beginning to imagine making that commitment more official. Maybe they think about engagement, marriage, living together, building a family, creating a home, or simply establishing a relationship that both of you take seriously. The exact form may be different, but the desire for permanence is there. They may want something that has a future, something that is not constantly temporary. And perhaps you have become the person they associate with that future. This may be surprising because you may not have expected a younger person to be the one thinking this way. You may have assumed they wanted freedom, adventure, new experiences, no responsibility, but perhaps they are discovering that freedom is not always the same as happiness. Sometimes, after experiencing enough uncertainty, a person begins to crave stability, not because they have become boring, because they have discovered what actually matters to them. And perhaps you represent that. You may be exciting enough to keep them interested, but stable enough to make them feel safe. You may challenge them, but also understand them. You may have standards, but also compassion. You may be independent, but still capable of deep loyalty. And perhaps that balance is exactly what they have been looking for. They may have never met someone who makes them feel so many things at once: comfort, excitement, curiosity, respect, desire, fear, hope, and perhaps that emotional combination has made you impossible to forget. They may think about you when they wake up. They may think about you before they sleep. They may imagine what you are doing. They may wonder whether you are thinking about them. They may look at your messages repeatedly. They may reread things you said. They may remember small moments. And perhaps they are trying to understand why someone who was not supposed to become important has become so important. They may have told themselves, this is not serious. But their behavior tells another story, because people do not imagine forever with someone they consider temporary. They do not worry about losing someone they do not value. They do not become jealous of someone they do not care about. They do not change their future plans for someone who means nothing. And perhaps this person is beginning to change their plans. They may be thinking about where they want to live, what kind of life they want, what kind of partner they want. And your presence may be influencing those thoughts, not because you are controlling them, because you have become part of the equation. They may be thinking, would Virgo like this? Could Virgo live here? Would Virgo be happy with this lifestyle? Would Virgo be proud of me? And perhaps they never used to think that way. That is how much your presence has affected them. You have become part of their decision-making process. And perhaps that is a sign that they have already chosen you emotionally. They may not have said, I choose Virgo, but their mind keeps returning to you. Their future keeps including you. Their emotions keep responding to you. And perhaps that says everything. This person may also be aware that you are not easy to impress. You may have seen enough to know the difference between words and reality. You may not be easily distracted by expensive gifts or dramatic declarations. You may appreciate those things, but what truly affects you is effort, consistency, respect, someone who remembers what you said, someone who follows through, someone who makes you feel secure. And perhaps this person is learning that they may be trying to understand your love language. They may be studying the little things that make you happy. They may be paying attention to what makes you withdraw. They may be trying to become better at communicating with you. And perhaps that is adorable in its own way because they may not always get it right. They may make mistakes. They may say the wrong thing. They may become frustrated, but they may keep trying. And perhaps that is what matters. The person who wants you forever is not necessarily the person who never makes mistakes. It is the person who does not disappear after making them. The person who comes back, the person who takes responsibility, the person who learns, the person who says, I want to do better. And perhaps this younger person is reaching that point. They may be realizing that wanting you is not enough. They need to show you. They need to become someone you can trust, someone you can rely on, someone you can imagine building with. And perhaps they are willing to grow into that person because you have become important enough to them that they do not want to remain the same. That is powerful. Sometimes the right connection does not simply make you feel loved. It makes you want to become better. And perhaps you have had that effect on them. You may have made them think more seriously about their choices. You may have made them consider their future. You may have made them question their old patterns. You may have made them realize that emotional immaturity has consequences. Because if they continue behaving carelessly, they may lose you. And perhaps that possibility is enough to wake them up. They may have been taking time, moving slowly, trying to understand their feelings, but perhaps now they know they want you, not temporarily, not only when it is convenient, not only when they are lonely. They want to be part of your life, and perhaps they want to know whether you are willing to let them. This may be the moment where you have to make a decision to, not necessarily immediately, not necessarily based on emotion alone, but you may need to ask yourself, do I want this person in my future? Can I trust their growth? Are they showing me enough? Do their actions match their feelings? Because their desire for forever is meaningful, but your standards still matter. Do not lower your standards simply because someone wants you. Let them rise to meet you. Let them show you that they are serious. Let them demonstrate that they can handle the kind of connection they are asking for. Because perhaps they are asking for forever, and forever requires maturity. It requires patience. It requires accountability. It requires the ability to stay when things are not perfect. And perhaps they are ready to learn. Maybe they are not completely ready yet, but perhaps they are becoming ready. And that can be enough to begin. You do not need someone who has everything figured out. You need someone who is honest about what they do not know, someone who is willing to learn, someone who does not run away from growth, someone who understands that love is not just a feeling, it is a practice. And perhaps this person is beginning to practice choosing you in small ways, by checking in, by remembering, by making time, by listening, by apologizing, by trying again. These things may seem small, but over time, small things become a life. And perhaps that is what this person wants, a life, not simply a relationship. They want the entire experience of knowing you, the difficult moments, the funny moments, the ordinary moments, the celebrations, the disappointments, the growth, the changes. They want to see who you become, and they want you to see who they become. That is what makes their feelings so serious. They are not simply interested in who you are today. They are interested in the person you will become years from now. And perhaps they want to be there for that journey. They want to watch you achieve things. They want to support you. They want to be proud of you. They want to celebrate you. And perhaps they want you to do the same for them. They may want a partner who believes in their potential, someone who does not define them by their current situation, someone who can see that they are still growing, and perhaps you have given them that feeling. You may have looked at them and seen more than what they currently are. You may have believed in them before they believed in themselves, and perhaps they have never forgotten that. That may be why they are so attached to you. Because when someone makes you feel capable of becoming more, you remember them. You remember the person who saw potential in you. And perhaps they want to become that person for you too. They want to be the one who supports your dreams, the one who reminds you of your ability, the one who tells you not to give up, the one who sees your strength when you are exhausted. And perhaps that is what forever means to them. Not simply staying, being present, being involved, being part of your life. And perhaps they are already imagining that. They may think about growing older with you. They may think about the memories you could create. They may think about the stories you could tell years from now. They may imagine looking back at the beginning and saying, "We had no idea where this would lead." And perhaps that thought makes them emotional because they may feel that what they have with you is too meaningful to treat casually. They may not want to waste time. They may not want to keep pretending they are unsure. They may not want to lose another day to fear. And perhaps they are slowly preparing themselves to be honest, to tell you that they have chosen you, to tell you that they do not want to keep searching, to tell you that they want something real. And perhaps the words will surprise you because you may not expect them to be so direct. You may expect hesitation. You may expect excuses. You may expect them to change the subject. But perhaps they are reaching the point where hiding is more uncomfortable than confessing. They may no longer be able to pretend that you are just another person. You are not. You have become someone important, someone who affects their mood, their thoughts, their decisions, their future, and perhaps they are finally ready to admit it. This younger person may be thinking about forever because they have already experienced what it feels like to imagine life without you, and they did not like that feeling. They may have realized that even if they continued meeting people, they would still compare them to you. Even if they moved on, they might still wonder, what if I had chosen Virgo? And perhaps they do not want to live with that question. They may want to know, they may want to try, they may want to build, they may want to give this connection a real chance. And perhaps that is why their feelings are becoming stronger, not weaker. The more they understand you, the more they appreciate you. The more they discover your flaws, the more human you become. The more they see your strength, the more they admire you. The more they experience your loyalty, the more they want to earn it. And perhaps that is the real reason they want you forever. You are not just an idea to them anymore. You are a person, a real person, someone with moods, fears, dreams, habits, boundaries, and they have seen enough of the real you to know that they still want more. That is powerful because anyone can fall for an idealized version of someone, but choosing the real person, that is different. And perhaps this younger person is doing exactly that. They may be saying, I know Virgo is not perfect. I know Virgo can be stubborn. I know Virgo can overthink. I know Virgo needs space. I know Virgo has standards. And I still want Virgo. That may be the truth of this connection. They do not want a fantasy. They want you. And perhaps they are willing to accept that loving you means learning you, understanding you, being patient with you, and allowing you to be yourself. Because perhaps they know that the moment they try to change you, they risk losing the very qualities that made them fall in love with you. Your independence, your intelligence, your honesty, your intensity, your humor, your stubbornness, your softness, all of it, the whole combination. And perhaps that is what they have chosen. Not just one quality, you. So, Virgo, do not be surprised if this person begins acting more serious. Do not be surprised if they suddenly become more protective of the connection. Do not be surprised if they start asking questions about your future. Do not be surprised if they want more time with you. Do not be surprised if they become more honest. Do not be surprised if they start making plans instead of simply making promises, because perhaps they have already made the biggest decision internally. They want you, and now they are trying to figure out how to make that desire real. They may still have fears, they may still have insecurities, they may still have moments of immaturity, but their feelings may be more serious than their behavior has allowed you to believe. And perhaps that is why their actions may begin changing. They may start realizing that they cannot continue treating something permanent like something temporary. They may start understanding that if they want a forever relationship, they need forever type behavior, consistency, honesty, loyalty, effort, patience, and perhaps they are ready to learn the younger person may not have chosen you because they believe the relationship will always be easy. They may have chosen you because they believe you are worth the difficulty. That is the difference. They may know that you will challenge them. They may know that you will not accept excuses forever. They may know that you will make them confront parts of themselves they would rather avoid. And yet, they still want you because perhaps they understand that growth is better with the right person than comfort with the wrong one. They may be thinking, I would rather become better with Virgo than remain the same without Virgo. And perhaps that is the decision they have already made. They may not say it perfectly, they may not express it in the way you expect, but their heart may already be moving in that direction. And perhaps you are about to see the evidence, a conversation, an action, a decision, a moment where they choose you when it would have been easier not to. That moment may tell you more than any speech, because when someone wants you forever, eventually they stop talking about the future and begin building it. They begin making space. They begin creating stability. They begin including you. They begin showing you that their life has room for you. And perhaps that is what you should look for. Not only what they say, look at what they make room for. Look at what they prioritize. Look at what they protect. Look at what they continue choosing. Because love is revealed through repetition. And perhaps this person is beginning to repeat the same choice. You again and again and again. That may be why this connection feels impossible for them to escape. They may try to distract themselves. They may try to act casual. They may try to convince themselves that they should move on. But somehow, their heart keeps returning to the same place, back to you. And perhaps they are tired of fighting that. They may finally be ready to admit, I do not want to move on. I do not want to find someone else. I do not want to pretend this means less than it does. I want Virgo, and perhaps that is the moment everything changes. Not because a single conversation magically solves everything, but because honesty creates a new foundation. Once someone admits what they truly want, they can no longer hide behind uncertainty. And perhaps this person is approaching that point. They may be ready to say, I chose you, not because you forced them, not because they have no other options. Because after everything they have experienced, after everyone they have met, after all the possibilities they have considered, they still come back to you. And perhaps that is what makes this so powerful. They may be younger, they may still have things to learn, they may still be growing, but perhaps their heart has already recognized something. You are not someone they want to lose. You are not someone they want to replace. You are not someone they want to remember as the person I almost had. They want to be able to say, that is the person I chose. And perhaps they want you to choose them too. But Virgo, remember this. You are not required to rush. You are not required to make a lifelong decision simply because someone else has made theirs. You are allowed to observe. You are allowed to take your time. You are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to see whether their actions truly match their feeling. Because if they genuinely want you forever, time will not destroy that desire. Time will reveal it. The right person will not disappear simply because you need proof. They will understand why you need proof. They will show you. They will be patient. They will allow their consistency to speak. And perhaps this person is ready to do exactly that. Maybe their greatest challenge is not convincing you that they love you. Maybe their greatest challenge is becoming someone you can safely trust with your future. And perhaps they are ready to take that challenge. They may be younger, but perhaps you have awakened something serious in them, something mature, something intentional, something that says, I cannot continue treating love like a game. Because when you meet someone who truly matters, the old games stop being entertaining. The attention of other people becomes less exciting. The possibility of temporary connections becomes less attractive. And suddenly, one person becomes enough. One person becomes the person they want to talk to, the person they want to see, the person they want to impress, the person they want to build with. And perhaps you have become that person. They may not be able to explain exactly when it happened. Maybe there was one conversation, one look, one moment of vulnerability. One time you supported them. One time you made them laugh when they needed it. One time you believed in them. One moment when they realized, I do not want this person to disappear. And perhaps from that moment, everything changed. They may have started paying closer attention. They may have started noticing your absence. They may have started wanting more. And eventually, wanting more became wanting forever. That is a big emotional journey. And perhaps this person has already taken it. Now, they may simply be waiting for the courage to tell you. So if they begin acting strangely serious, if they suddenly want to talk about the future, if they become more consistent, if they start asking you questions that feel deeper than normal, pay attention. They may be trying to find out whether the future they imagine is possible. They may be trying to see if you can imagine it too. And perhaps the most beautiful part is that you may not have to force anything. You do not have to chase them. You do not have to convince them. You do not have to prove your worth. They may already know. They may have already decided. And perhaps now the only thing left is for their actions to catch up with their heart. Because somewhere inside, this younger person may have already made the choice. They may have looked at you and thought, this is who I want. Not for one night, not for one season, not until someone else appears. They want the person they can keep choosing, the person they can grow with, the person they can build with, the person they can come back to, the person they can create a life with. And perhaps that person is you. So, Virgo, the next time you wonder whether this person is serious, remember that their feelings may be much deeper than their age suggests. The next time you assume they are simply being playful, look at their consistency. The next time you think they are still searching, pay attention to where they keep returning. Because sometimes someone has already made their decision. They simply have not found the right moment to say it. And perhaps this person has already chosen you in all the quiet ways. They choose to think about you. They choose to come back. They choose to remember. They choose to try. They choose to imagine. They choose to grow. And perhaps one day they will choose you openly, in front of the world, without hesitation, without pretending, without leaving you to wonder. They may finally make it clear, I am here. I want this. I want you. And perhaps that will be the moment you realize that all of their uncertainty was not about whether they wanted you, it was about whether they were good enough for you. Maybe they were afraid you would reject them. Maybe they were afraid you would see their age or their inexperience and decide they could not give you what you deserve. Maybe they were afraid that you would look at them and think, you are too young. But perhaps they are determined to prove that love is not always measured by age. It is measured by intention, by consistency, by emotional honesty, by the willingness to grow. And perhaps they are willing, they may not know everything, but they may know that they do not want to lose you. And sometimes that realization is where true maturity begins. When someone stops asking, what can I get? And starts asking, what can I build? What can I give? How can I protect this? How can I become someone who deserves this? Perhaps that is where this person is now. They may be thinking about you in a way that has become impossible to ignore. They may be imagining a future that surprises even them. They may be looking at you and thinking, how did I become this attached? But perhaps the answer is simple. You gave them something they were not expecting, a connection that feels both exciting and safe. A person who challenges them but does not try to destroy them. A person who has standards but still has a heart. a person who can be stubborn but also incredibly loyal, a person who does not give everyone access. And perhaps they feel incredibly special because you gave them access. That may be why they want more. They may want to know all of you, not just the easy parts, the difficult parts too, the parts you hide, the parts you protect, the parts you only reveal when you trust someone. And perhaps they want to become the person you trust completely. That is a serious desire. And perhaps it is one they have already chosen. So, Virgo, do not be surprised if this person suddenly becomes more intentional. Do not be surprised if their energy shifts from playful to serious. Do not be surprised if they begin acting as though losing you is no longer an option. Because perhaps they have reached a conclusion. They have met you. They have experienced you. They have seen enough to know. And now they do not want temporary. They do not want almost. They do not want maybe. They want something that lasts. They want the person they can still be with when life changes. When circumstances change, when both of you grow, when you become different versions of yourselves, they want to know whether you can continue choosing each other through those changes. And perhaps they believe you can because they may already feel that you have a foundation, a connection that can survive distance, misunderstandings, time, growth, and perhaps that is why they are thinking about forever. Not because they believe nothing will ever go wrong, because they believe something real can survive what goes wrong. That is a much more mature kind of love. And perhaps this person is discovering it with you. So, Virgo, the younger person may have already chosen. They may already know who they want. They may already be imagining the future. They may already be thinking about permanence. And perhaps the only thing left is for them to become brave enough to show you. But do not confuse their youth with a lack of depth. Do not assume that because they are younger, they cannot feel something serious. Sometimes the person we expect to be the least prepared is the person who surprises us the most. Sometimes the person we assume wants freedom is the person secretly longing for one person to call home. Sometimes the person who acts the most casual is the person who has already imagined a future. And perhaps that is this person. They may joke, they may tease, they may pretend they are unaffected. But underneath it all, there may be a very simple truth. They want you. They want more of you. They want to keep you. They want to grow with you. They want to become better for you. And perhaps somewhere deep inside, they have already made the decision. If I am going to build something real, I want to build it with Virgo. That is not a small thought. That is not a temporary feeling. That is not something people say about just anyone. And perhaps they are beginning to understand the weight of it. They may know that wanting forever means accepting responsibility. It means being present. It means being honest. It means choosing someone even when it would be easier to run. And perhaps they are ready to learn how to do that. Not perfectly, but sincerely. And perhaps sincerity is what you have been waiting for. Not perfection. Not someone who knows everything. Someone who genuinely wants to build. Someone who does not simply want access to you. Someone who wants a place in your life. Someone who wants to earn your trust. Someone who wants to be there for the long term. And perhaps that is what this person is trying to become. They may be younger, but perhaps you have made them think older. You have made them think deeper. You have made them think beyond the moment. And perhaps they will never forget that. Because there are people we meet who entertain us, people who make us feel good temporarily. And then there are people who change the way we understand what we want. Perhaps you are that person for them. You have changed their standards. You have changed their expectations. You have changed what they imagine when they think about love. And perhaps now they do not want something ordinary. They want something that feels like you. And perhaps that is why they cannot let go. They may have already chosen. They may have already decided. They may already be thinking about how to make you part of their future. And perhaps the only question now is whether you will recognize the seriousness behind their feelings. Because this person may be standing at the edge of a major emotional decision. They may be preparing to move from I like Virgo to I choose Virgo, from I want Virgo to I will show Virgo, from maybe this could become something to I want to build something that lasts. And perhaps that transition is happening right now, quietly, internally, before the words, before the announcement, before the obvious action. The decision may already exist inside them. They have chosen you. Now they have to become brave enough to live according to that choice. And perhaps they will. Because when someone genuinely wants forever, eventually the fear of losing you becomes greater than the fear of being vulnerable. They stop hiding. They stop pretending. They stop waiting for the perfect moment. They simply come forward. And perhaps that moment is closer than you think. So, Virgo, do not be surprised if the person you assumed was too young, too uncertain, or too inexperienced suddenly shows you a level of seriousness you never expected. Do not be surprised if they reveal that they have been thinking about you much more deeply than they ever admitted. Do not be surprised if they tell you that they have imagined a future. Do not be surprised if they finally make their intentions clear, because perhaps they have already made the most important decision. They do not want to keep searching. They do not want to keep comparing. They do not want to keep wondering whether someone else might be better. They have met you, they have experienced you, and perhaps they have realized that what they have with you is not easily found. You may not be perfect, neither are they. But perhaps the connection feels worth the work, worth the growth, worth the patience, worth the vulnerability, and perhaps that is what forever actually means. Not finding someone who never frustrates you, finding someone you still choose after they do, not finding someone who never changes, finding someone you are willing to grow alongside, not finding someone who makes every day easy, finding someone who makes the difficult days worth facing. And perhaps this younger person is beginning to understand that. They may be realizing that you are not simply someone they want to date. You are someone they want to know, someone they want to understand, someone they want to protect, someone they want to build with, someone they want to keep choosing. And perhaps that is why they are looking at you differently now. The attraction is still there. The chemistry is still there. The excitement is still there. But underneath all of that is something deeper, a decision a desire for permanence, a quiet certainty. They may not be able to explain exactly why, but something inside them keeps saying, "Do not let Virgo go." And perhaps they are finally listening. So, Virgo, let them show you, let them prove it, let them grow, let them become the person they are trying to become. Do not rush the process. Do not force the confession. Do not chase the promise. Simply observe. Because if they truly want you forever, their actions will eventually become impossible to misunderstand. They will make space for you. They will protect the connection. They will show up. They will communicate. They will become more intentional. They will stop treating you like a temporary possibility. And they will start treating you like someone they genuinely want in their life. Not just today, not just this month, not just while everything is exciting, but through the changes, through the growth, through the difficult conversations, through the ordinary days, through the years, because perhaps that is what they have already imagined. A future where you are still there, a future where they are still choosing you, a future where you look at them and realize they really meant it. And maybe one day that is exactly what will happen. You will look back at the uncertainty, the hesitation, the mixed signals, the moments when you wondered whether they were serious, and you will realize that underneath all of it, they were trying to become ready, ready for you, ready for commitment, ready for the kind of love they had never experienced before. And perhaps that is why they needed time, not to decide whether they wanted you. Maybe they already knew. They needed time to decide whether they could become the person capable of keeping you. That is a very different question. And perhaps their answer is becoming clearer. They want to try. They want to grow. They want to build. They want to choose. And perhaps, Virgo, they want you forever. Not because you are perfect, because you are you. The person they cannot replace, the person they keep returning to, the person who changed what they want, the person who made them think beyond the moment, the person who made them imagine a future they never expected to want. And perhaps their heart has already made the decision. Now, they are simply waiting for their courage to catch up. So if you have been wondering whether this younger person sees you as something temporary, perhaps the answer is very different from what you assumed. Maybe they have already looked at you and seen permanence. Maybe they have already imagined a life. Maybe they have already decided that if they are going to give their heart completely to someone, they want that someone to be you. And perhaps that is why they cannot stop thinking about you, why they cannot fully move on, why other connections do not feel the same, why they keep coming back. Because maybe they are not looking for someone new. Maybe they have already found the person they want, and that person is you. So, Virgo, the next chapter may not begin with a dramatic declaration. It may begin with something much smaller, a message, a conversation, a decision, a moment where they choose honesty over pride, a moment where they choose effort over distance, a moment where they choose you and nobody is forcing them to. And perhaps that small moment will reveal everything, because forever is rarely built in one dramatic moment. It is built in hundreds of small decisions. The decision to call, the decision to stay, the decision to listen, the decision to apologize, the decision to try again, the decision to make room, the decision to choose the same person repeatedly. And perhaps this younger person is beginning to make those decisions one by one, quietly, until one day you realize they did not simply say they wanted you forever. They built a life where forever became possible. And perhaps that is the kind of love you deserve. Not a promise shouted loudly and forgotten quickly, a choice repeated quietly, consistently, honestly, until you no longer have to wonder, until you no longer have to analyze, until you no longer have to ask, do they really want me? Because their entire behavior answers for them. They do, they chose you, and perhaps, Virgo, they have already decided that if they are going to grow, change, mature, love, struggle, laugh, build, and experience the future with someone, they want that someone to be you. Not because they are too young to know what they want. Perhaps because meeting you made them finally understand what they want. And that may be the most unexpected part of this entire connection. You may have entered their life thinking you were simply another person, but they may have looked at you and thought, no, this one is different. This one is worth keeping. This one is worth growing for. This one is worth choosing. And perhaps they already have. So let them show you. Let them come closer. Let them prove that their feelings have depth. Let them demonstrate that they are not simply caught up in a temporary emotion. Because if they truly want forever, time will reveal it. And if their heart has truly chosen you, they will keep finding ways to show you. Not always perfectly, not always elegantly, but sincerely. And perhaps one day, when you least expect it, they will look at you with the same certainty they have been carrying privately for so long. And you will finally understand they were not just attracted to you. They were not just curious about you. They were not just temporarily fascinated by you. They were slowly, quietly, unexpectedly choosing you. And perhaps they already have. Forever may have begun in their mind long before you ever realized they were thinking about it.